next speaker is a very important part of our program this morning. As you may or may not know, Environics Analytics is owned by Bell, and we were acquired by Bell 4 years ago. Bell's been a very happy home for us because they've supported us to continue to invest in all of the things that we've been talking to you about. And they've enabled us to continue to be that agnostic, independent, arm's-length organization to provide data and analytics for all of you in Canada. And our champion at Bell is Cohan, the new president of Bell Media, and I'm very honored to ask Sean to join me on stage and talk a little bit about what's happening at Bell Media, at Bell, and why Bell's supporting Environics Analytics on this journey. So Sean, you're hobbled a bit this morning, so if you need to get up and walk around, feel free, because I know what it's like to have that kind of an injury.
Thank you, yeah, I'm dealing with some middle-aged back pain, and it's making me pace. Maybe that makes me get more steps in, maybe it's good for me in the end. But thank you, Jan, so exciting to be here.
Yes, and thank you for coming. You know, Sean often says, well, I'm the annoying New Yorker, but for me, it hasn't been annoying at all, because to have someone to work with who actually comes out of a combination of the media and the data industry has been really great for us. But first of all, you've been here almost for a year. You've actually, I think, joined Bell last November. So how do you like Toronto? How do you like the weather? How's the restaurants? Are we treating you well?
Treating me very well. Weather, restaurants, great. Traffic, not so much. Can't have everything.
But as I mentioned, your arrival has been on the scene has been a great development for us at Environics Analytics, particularly because of your long career in data and the innovation that you're bringing to help transform Bell Media in the face of all the changes in the outside world. We've talked a lot this morning with our kind of insights community about the need for their information to get across the enterprise. How do you see what we're doing at Environics being able to help Bell Media in the transformation and growth mission that you have there?
Well, first, thanks very much for the kind words, but I don't know that I'd call my track record in data long. I would say, you know, with great respect to you and the other folks in the room that have driven and built a great infrastructure here in Canada. But just back to your question on Bell. So been here nearly a year. For me, what brought me here and what's been exciting over the last year is really at the core of our mission in Bell Media. It's about investing and delivering the most compelling content experiences, right? That's to consumers. And then alongside that, it's about working with marketers and other partners to scale what I'd call an easy button for partnering with us. To scale what I call an easy button to reach those, to allow advertisers to reach those consumers. And I think the third and last component for me, and this is where it kind of where Environics, one of the many ways where Environics really ties into what we do at Bell Media and what we do at BCE and what the ecosystem does, is an important part of that easy button and delivering content experiences and underwriting them is enabling advertisers to target the segments or the consumers that they want to target, and enabling advertisers and partners to see whether and how it worked. Did people visit the dealership? Did they buy the car online? Whatever the outcome of choice is for the partner, it's really demonstrating that it worked. It's back to your classic in your presentation earlier this morning. You referenced the cliche that is still true. It's this half of advertising is a waste. I don't know which half. It's really helping advertisers understand, once they've targeted a segment, how well did they do?
And we're really committed to that, and the opportunities to work together with the team at Bell Media, with many people at Bell who are harnessing the data, is challenging us to think of new ways to do it. And I'm very pleased that before we came on, you had the opportunity to hear about the partnership with LiveRamp that's enabling us to do that more quickly because of the need in the marketplace for that measurement is very urgent. The measurement systems that have been in place are a little bit challenged, not just in Canada, but all over the world. And we see the media industry wrestling with this idea that we really need to change how we measure, but yet we have so much inertia, so much resistance to how we do that. How do advertisers and media and the measurement organizations have to think differently about how we measure media from the point of view of reach, frequency, and ultimately effectiveness?
Wow, how much time you got?
You got all the time in the world.
No, maybe a little off script here. I think maybe I'll reflect back to, there's so many challenges. I'm reflecting back a little bit to my time at Nielsen. So many challenges to new platforms, to different pockets of first and third party data. And I think you said in one of your slides this morning, it was kind of finding a way to fuse them or bring them together, but fusion ain't easy. And I think there is, and you take me where you want to go here, but I think the part of what I'm excited about that Environics helps us do, and helps the whole ecosystem do, is working with LiveRamp, right on cue. Daniela, wherever you are, you can send me the check for this in a minute.
No, it's our check.
It's our check, that's true,
Okay.
both of our checks. Is creating safe haven hub or like collaboration environment and tools that allow us collectively, when I say us, I don't just mean Bell or Environics or other broadcasters, as a community, to like fuse together or to combine these very disparate elements to create the most accurate story for who the customer is and did we reach the customer and so on and so forth. So I think if part of your question is, hey, how will this work, or how can we all kind of improve, what are the challenges to media measurement and how can we improve it? Well, one of them is recognizing that, hey, we've got a lot of disparate elements. We've all got to think differently than we did 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's not just about like, oh, who viewed on this platform or who viewed on that one. It's creating a consolidated, future-proof, exhaustive, coverage model of did people watch, and then including, or did people watch, did they consume, did they listen, and then really getting to what did they do, even if that's modeling, but what did they do once they watched?
What they do differently. What
Yeah.
do we need to do to make their behavior different? Well, your comments really make me think about something that we're wrestling with right now, which is honestly the way it works right now. Traditional broadcast is measured by Numeris in Canada in a certain way. And the walled gardens measure themselves. And a lot of our DSP partners will provide you with measurement. What we're trying to launch, and what we have done already right away now with some customers, is from an Environics point of view, use Prism or other kinds of small cohorts to say, well, if this was the target, how did that group of people do in this campaign looking at the different media and the different screens? It's not getting to the fusion, but it's right now being able to say, I got this kind of a lift against a control on TV, on connected TV, in programmatic, and actually maybe direct mail. Does that work for you from a Bell Media perspective? Because we are finding that the holy grail of having it all fused together is, it's a bit difficult. But right now, we want people to measure across screens and across media the best they can without waiting for it to be perfect.
Yeah, it comes back to you were talking, you used a reference this morning, perfect in the way of good.
Yeah.
And look, I think, again, when I was back at Nielsen and during my first year here, clearly dreaming of this kind of cross-media, cross-platform, one eyeball is an eyeball, and like you see whether they watched, and then you see exactly what they did. And love to think about that future. But to your point, anything that kind of pushes us forward beyond just simply, with all respect to Numeris, beyond just simply, oh, you got to this reach and this frequency based on a panel. Yeah. We need to get beyond that and be more inclusive, as I talked about. But I think your implied question is like, oh, do we have to wait for, or should we be, kind of, kvetching that we don't have this perfect solution? And I think the answer is no. I think we have consumers that are consuming lots of content. We're the largest media company in Canada, which we reach every Canadian across all of what Bell does. We reach virtually every Canadian every month. And in reaching that and in allowing our partners, sorry for the PSA here, but in allowing all of our partners to reach the consumers they want to reach, we can't wait for the Holy Grail. Yeah. We have got to, we and Chorus and Rogers and streamers and everybody has to continue to optimize alongside our partners, alongside the whole ecosystem, to enable advertisers to target the folks that they want to get at and show at least directionally whether it worked better or worse, to your point.
It's really great to have your support for that. We have Rogers and Chorus and streamers in the room, and I think sometimes they wonder, well, Environics, is Bell really going to let you do this? And you've been so supportive to us to say, not only are we going to let you, but we want that because we want an organization that has that expertise and that independence. And I think that, what we're hearing right now is that we need our friends in the agencies to kind of bring everybody to the table and figure out how we can do it. So how do you think Environics can work more closely with Bell Media in the same way as we would work with ad sales people in other organizations to help these people who mainly represent the advertisers? How can we offer them media with measurement in a way that they can get some results now?
Well, even before we go there, I flash back to you were talking this morning, the powerful line was like, data hoarding is out and collaboration is in, and I think that's very consistent with how we think about it at Bell and how we treat our partnership and stewardship with Environics. So I think that's first critical thing to reinforce. We kind of it's not just a progressive ideal about that the world is a better place if we all have more information, privacy safe information, but more information, more data, more transparency. I think the how can you help? Well, I think first off, maybe I kind of short-circuited or shorted a little bit of how much Environics data and its modeling already infuses a bunch of stuff that we do. So whether that's, we've got a linear optimizer, called SAM, which we allow ad buyers to use insights, to use data to target best. We've got a partnership with Xandr to operate a DSP in Canada, which also includes insights and modeling and so on from Environics. So first, I would just say, hey, you're already informing, and then the tools that we've talked about a little bit, the LiveRamp X, Environics tools, collaboration tools. Those are things that I think will have, starting to be and will be really helpful kind of sandboxes, if you will, for collaboration and really foundational areas for us to kind of bring all these things together. I think in the end, I'm going to parrot it back what you've said to me. You can help by helping, partnering, and even at times forcing us, and will force us at Bell Media to come to grips with and communicate on a relative basis how well our stuff works, right? In addition to targeting those segments as tightly as possible, helping us do that, it's really, hey, if it didn't work, well, how do we get it to work better?
Exactly.
Right? So it's like, it's not only a report card or a scorecard. Sorry, I have young kids, so I'm always thinking report card. It's not only a scorecard, it's like, okay, how do you tinker with planning and activation as a result of that?
Well, I think that's a really important part, and I didn't get into it as much as I would have liked to this morning. Of course, we always cover a lot of stuff. But I think sometimes when we talk about we're going to measure how this did and this screen or this channel or this medium, people get nervous. Oh, so you're going to show that was better than this. But the real thing that we're showing is testing and learning and taking the information that's measuring that outcome, and it's a cycle. We're feeding it back into the targeting. And sometimes I think that this is a little bit of a criticism, so you have to figure. I sometimes think media people think that data starts at the point of execution.
Yeah.
You know, okay, we're just going to go and we're going to drop down a menu and I'm going, oh, that audience sounds okay and that audience sounds okay. How can we get media and agency people to really ensure that all the incredible work that people do on insights and the deep segmentation, and when we talk about personifications, and more importantly, how can we get agencies to actually use these deep insights to influence the creative and then have our, you know, the great thing of, okay, now we can execute against it. So I'm looking for support and ways to kind of back it up into the earlier parts of the creative messaging, the design, really using the insights, and then executing against it instead of just thinking about the target groups at the point of media buying and planning.
Yeah, I mean, you've posed a series of difficult questions, which will be hard for me to answer in 5 minutes. I will say maybe a little bit of a save by the bell on that, but I'll say maybe I'll take a different tack, and I'll defend for a minute. Media and agency folks, like everybody in this room, the world right now is so challenging, and the dynamic is changing so fast. Just even thinking about, I spent a lot of time thinking about taking content to the consumer on the platforms, everywhere where he, she, they wants to consume content, right? And which platforms matter, which don't, you know, it's kind of, and the changing economics and models associated with consumption, right? And maybe that's a little less an agency problem at the moment, but it's certainly a global media ecosystem problem. It's not just Canada, it's not just traditional, it's everywhere. It's like, where am I going to take, how am I taking stuff to people? The good news is people are watching as much video and listening as much as they did yesterday, bounded only by sleep, and sleep is sadly losing, or happily on some days. But it's really, so you're contending with a giant shift in consumption. And then you're contending with some of the challenges which you and some of the other speakers this morning have brought up. And so first, I just want to be defensive of, yeah, it's a little bit of like, there's this giant question of where do you put your bets?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're an agency, if you're a media co, and if you're lots of different stakeholders in the room. And so I think we do have to, you know, kind of manage expectations of folks there, but I share your hope, sometimes confusion, but hope, that we can all kind of align to a North Star that is, hey, we're trying to get to a place where it's better rather than perfect. We're trying to get to a place where the transparency and insights, to your point, we can use before activation and before execution, but really at the kind of planning or even before planning stage. Yeah. I think you've opened up, I don't know if you wittingly did it, but I've long thought that there's more room for data on the creative execution side, and on like, not just who are you targeting, but like,
what are you saying?
What are you seeing?
How are you
what
seeing?
Are you making?
The picture, the message, all
yeah.
that. Yeah,
and that's always been a riddle, and it's something that maybe we as a collective industry maybe haven't spent as much time on. But I guess what I would say, the long-winded way of saying, there are so many questions and so many challenges right now that I think it comes back to your good versus perfect.
Right.
Let's just keep driving.
And let's keep working together. I mean, we're working closely with agencies, both independents and large holdcos, to try to wrestle with all of this. And, you know, one of the leaders of one of the agencies said last week at the Future TV conference, look, we're just trying to do what our clients ask us to do. We're not making all those decisions ourselves. So whether there's advertisers, agencies, media, you know, new media, we're all in this together. I know that you have to go, so I really appreciate your being with us today. And I think these big open questions about the transition of media, the transition of technology, that's what you're wrestling with writ large in terms of your leadership of Bell Media. So I hope that when you look back in 5 years, we see these pivotal years right now since you've come. You really see this as the time when the media system and all the technology and all the data and the methods of doing things in Canada, we're going through transition, but I think we're coming out the other side.
Yeah, I have two reactions. Thank you for that. Two reactions. One is, I do think we have to come back to, we all have the privilege, at least and on the media side, I say almost every day, we have the privilege of being invited into people's living rooms, into their gatherings, into their, commutes, to entertain, provoke, inform, delight, spark, demand, ask questions, et cetera, right? And that's a privilege. I also said a minute ago that people are consuming and interacting as much with content and with us and lots of folks in this room, consumers, more than they ever have. And yeah, there's a lot of questions, but yeah, it is a little bit of the glass half full it's right. A little bit of a golden era. We could be, no offense to Xerox, if there's folks in the room, but we could be Xerox, right? We could be a product that people don't want. Consumers are consuming. Yeah. We just have a lot of answers. So that's maybe the first thing I'd say. And the second thing I'd say is maybe a thanks to you and a lot of the stakeholders in the room for the following. We've talked a lot about, I think already, and you all will talk over this day, a lot about collaboration and how important collaboration is versus hoarding, how important working together and a North Star is. I think there's an important part of this that is underlying it is education. And I think lots of rooms like this are about education. And for me, I would say especially, I come in and it's getting everyone kind of on the same page in terms, not at the same level as a lot of the data scientists in the room, because I'll never know half of what they know, but it's really, getting ourselves oriented and educated on what the art of the possible right now is really a big part of, I think, bringing us to a better place.
Right. That's great. Thank you so much. I really share that enthusiasm and optimism that we're on a good path. And it may seem complicated, but boy, we're making a lot of progress.
We are.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for your partnership in that.
Thanks for having me.